Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 248 of the SoxProspects.com podcast. We're the web's number one source for information on the Boston Red Sox, from top to bottom, from Fort Myers to Worcester, across the Pike to Fenway, and all stops in between. Thank you all for listening. My name is Chris Hatfield. I am the executive editor of Sox Prospects, joined as always by our director of scouting, the Taylor Page to my Kendrick Lamar, Ian Kundle. Ian, welcome to the show. It is
who?
You wouldn't get it.
Nope.
It's a bit obscure. It's a bit obscure.
Just like your Zoolander reference last week that I no sold.
So you were just no selling it.
Oh no, I didn't get it at all. Oh no, 100% went right over my head.
That one you should have gotten.
No.
This one's a little bit more obscure for the listeners who have copped Kendrick's new album this week. They may have spit take from it, but anyway, hopefully.
That's not. I have not
new
bought
Kendrick Lamar album is solid. Not bought it. Listen to it.
I have not listened to a new CD in probably like CD whatever. Oh, well, that tells you how long it's been a while. I'm not a big music person.
Yeah, I know.
Actually, let's cut this. I don't want to admit that on the podcast. That's gonna just lead to too many emails. Let's go,
dude. You've admitted that you don't like maple syrup on the podcast.
That's a
you can only go up from that one
because I have a refined palate, unlike a lot of our listeners. So yeah,
it's fair. Anyway, well, look, we're don't make the scissor motion to me. We're not cutting it. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about, Ian. We've got our first big promotion of the season, so we're going to talk about that. More goings on at Fenway that involve the minor league teams, so we're going to talk about that. And we'll, as always, get to your emails. But of course, if folks want to support the show, there's a couple ways they can do that. First, spread the word, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever it is that you listen. Tell a friend, use your phone a friend. Go on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and use your phone a friend and just say, hey, I just wanted to tell you about the SoxProspects.com podcast. That's not even a show anymore. I don't know, whatever the equivalent would be now. Do it. Tell the game show host. Go on a game show. Tell Steve Harvey. He'd probably like the show. But of course, you can also support us on patreon.com/SoxProspects. Pledge a certain amount per episode, get some neat perks. And we've actually got some Patreon game updates queued up. I just need to start uploading them this week. Ian's got 3 of them in my inbox and a few more coming, apparently, is the plan, Ian. So we'll go from there. Yeah, but we've got some game updates where we talk about guys who we don't necessarily have time to get to on the show. So you can get a little bit more of your prospect fix. Again, it's patreon.com/SoxProspects. Appreciate all of our supporters there. And of course, our $5 level supporters will get you at the end of the show. But Ian, let's jump right into it. Let's start with the newest news. This afternoon, today we're recording on Monday the 16th, we learned that right-hander Brayan Bello is getting promoted to AAA Worcester. Along with yesterday, I think I technically broke, but it's like you find it out because the guy posted it on his Instagram or something or his social media. Like, it's not really breaking news as far as I'm concerned if it's out there publicly. But
Utes these days.
Utes, yes. But AJ Politi is also getting promoted from Portland to Worcester, and it looks like Kyle Hart and Darren Gillies are getting sent down to Portland from Worcester to make room. Very interesting, Ian. There's a lot to unpack here. First, there's the Bello promotion itself, why it's happening. Some people were asking if it was aggressive, and I pointed out, look, Bello was in Portland last year. In his last start crossed 100 innings.
He's
at like 100.1.
That seems like that's the number that they're. And yeah, I actually almost forgot how much he pitched, like most of 2/3 of last season in Portland. Yeah. It wasn't like he was up there for like a cameo at the end of the season. He spent a majority of the time there. So, I mean, it was ready. Let's be honest, he wasn't really being challenged by hitters in AA. So,
well, he had his no hitter, and then he went his next 3 innings of his next start without giving up a hit. So there's if you were saying the 7-inning no hitter was cheap, he completed the no hitter in his next start. But the thing that's kind of interesting to me, Ian, he only threw 30 innings in high A. I hadn't realized that.
Yeah, they basically I think they realized
fast tracked him.
I think they realized he was too good for it.
Well, the thing is, if you could put it this way, okay, Bello has had a very good start to the year, right? He in Portland this year alone in 33 2/3 innings, he has struck out 42, has given up 12 walks, 16 hits, 160 ERA. Actually, gosh, he's even better than he was in Greenville. I was going to make a point, but the point's wrong. In 6 starts last year in Greenville. I mean, the difference is, keep in mind, we were coming out of the pandemic missed season. So that kind of changed the calculus a bit, right? Of when a promotion was appropriate, because he would have been in high A in 2020. But last year in 6 starts, 31 and 2/3, he had 9 more hits, 3 more strikeouts, 5 fewer walks. So the K to walk ratio was better, but he did give up more hits, which I guess could just be circumstantial. But yeah, I mean, he's clearly ready after, pretty much, like I said, 103rd innings of Double A baseball.
And I think this kind of plays off of what we talked about last week with the 40-man options kind of matriculating from being not big league potential for later in the year to now being in the picture. And while I don't think he's in the picture anytime imminently, by getting him to Worcester this early, it gives him, potentially he could pitch in Worcester for, 6 weeks to 2 months and still be up by mid-August in a bullpen role. And I do wonder if eventually we will see maybe around like the MLB All-Star game, like late July, they especially because I assume he'll be on a relatively like strict innings limit because he threw 95 last year. So you're looking at probably 120 or so this year. I wonder if we see him kind of get moved to the bullpen with the eye towards calling him up for the stretch run if the Red Sox are still in it.
I could see it if they're still in it. Yeah, because I also got asked about that today on Twitter of like, because I said, someone said, "Oh, does that mean he might be up this year?" And I'm like, we've been saying he might be up this year since day one. Yeah,
no, that would not be a surprise. I feel like we've been talking about that since spring training.
But someone asked, and they were like, so what would the situation be if they're like out of it and they trade Waka or someone and open a spot or something? And I was like, no, that's actually the situation I wouldn't bring him up, because why waste the bullets? When I would bring him up is if you are.
No, I mean, though.
So there's breaking them in, but it depends how the incentives work.
Well, no, but there's also like, there is a theory that like with pitchers, like you're wasting bullets if you have them in the minors. So I don't think wasting bullets is the right term there.
Fair. Okay, fair.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because like,
no, I get that. And that's not what I meant by that is you only get so much control of a guy in the major leagues. Why are you using some of it?
Yeah, that's the reason. It's
right.
It's a service time thing. It's not a bullets thing for me.
It's a service time thing, and it's also the fact that with the new rules, and I have to double check how they work, but you get credit for calling a guy up on opening day. I don't know how service time from the prior year plays in. Does it create a perverse incentive to keep him down so you're calling him up for the first time? I have to double check how the rules work. I don't know.
Well, no, because I remember I was having this discussion with someone recently, and I'm pretty sure there's 2 separate like criterion. There's like a group of guys who make their MLB debut in season or on opening day. And then there's guys who just haven't exceeded rookie eligibility service time. And there's 2 buckets of picks, and you can get both of them if you're calling someone up at the beginning of the year. But if not, like there are others that only qualify for the second one, which is like the service time or at bats one, whatever it is.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But yeah, that said, so we'll see what they do with him at the end of this year. It might also depend on how he's pitching. Like if he's dealing like, I don't know, maybe they give him a cup of coffee just to get him the experience. I mean, there's something to that too. That's
but it's, I also think that like his stuff could be really good in the bullpen. Like in the bullpen, he could just sit fastball, changeup. And I would not be surprised at all. He was like 98, 99 in the bullpen, because he's like 95, 97, 94, 97 as a starter, touch 98, 99. That would tick up in the bullpen. And then he could just be a fastball changeup guy. Like he wouldn't even need his breaking ball. So he could have nasty stuff in the bullpen. And especially, I mean, with the way the bullpen looks right now, where, John Schreiber and Matt Strom are the only 2 relievers I trust in that entire pitching staff. Like,
which is an insane statement.
Yeah. Strom is not that surprising because Strom has nasty stuff. He's just been getting hurt. But John Schreiber turning into literally like their best right-handed reliever was just not something I had on my Red Sox bingo card at all. No. Hey, I mean, I don't know if you saw his at bat tonight again, or his facing Chas McCormick tonight. It was just disgusting. He's throwing like 93 to 94, like heavy sink, like sidearm
weird
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But Bello going up, I'm not surprised by it. I like to see it. It's exciting. I think, look, I think the other question is, for a high minors pitching prospect, when is the last guy we were this excited about? It's probably Eddie, right? Eddie Rodriguez. I mean, that's the closest comp I can.
What year was Eddie Rodriguez? Like 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other guys I was thinking of would have been like before that.
Before that, like the Websters and De La Rosas of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, their pitching development has not been the best of late. So yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm more excited about him than Mata or Darwinson, who are kind of the recent guys. Barnes, I don't think he was that when he got to AAA, right? So yeah, I mean, it's hey, we'll see what he does in AAA. I'm excited about it. It's a good reason to go check out the Woo Sox. Looks like his debut is going to be Wednesday.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that, and I think it shows kind of that they clearly have been very impressed by what he's been doing down there. And I mean, it's understandable with good reason. And I think that this was a necessary step, that even if he wasn't like, he just wasn't being challenged down there. Like the guys, he was toying with hitters at times.
Well, and apparently he didn't even have his best stuff his last couple of starts.
No, he hasn't. Which
includes a no hitter.
I talked to a scout who saw like one of his last couple starts, and they said the same thing. They were like, yeah, the stuff was good, but I've heard it's been better. And it's like, he still get it. And I will say, and this is something just kind of a generalization across the board, minor leagues are bad. Like this year, like the levels feel like AA now is not AA pre-pandemic. AAA, like all the levels, because of the elimination of short season A ball, it's pushing guys up quicker. And the result is like, when I saw we talked about it last week, but I saw Redding's lineup was atrocious. Mm-hmm. And like, there are just certain teams that are just awful. And
you're seeing really a lot of like 400 OPSs in lineups.
Yes. Like Redding had like 4 guys who were hitting under like 150 in their lineup. And that was like their actual starters. And it's like the same thing, or the flip side, you see with like Greenville was back in Asheville this week, and just so certain guys just broke out again. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're in Asheville. Like
not as much as the first time though. It was interesting.
No, but like that's why it's like, it's hard this year, because there are certain teams in certain leagues that are so bad that I think it's really skewing the numbers for certain guys.
So yeah, I'm excited about it. Politi, I guess, just to mention briefly, was absolutely shoving in Portland out of the bullpen. The first response I got to Politi going up is German going up too, which was kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, we should mention he's back pitching after a couple weeks off.
He had a couple weeks off. We heard non-baseball reasons. That's all I know. I don't know anything beyond that. Who knows what that means? But you're not going to miss 2 weeks and then get promoted. That's not how it works.
He also, I think, he gave up his first runs of the season in his first outing back.
Of course.
I did think it was interesting though, and then his second outing, the way they used him for the first time all season, they brought him in mid-inning. They brought him with the bases loaded, and he struck a guy out, and then they took him out, which was weird. But yeah.
I don't know what that was about, but maybe just because he had the rust and they didn't want to overextend him.
Well, it would be more like the getting up and sitting down part of
it. Exactly. Politi this year, 12 outings, 13 and a third innings, 2.02 ERA doesn't look that great, but then you see the 20-3 K to walk ratio. Has only given up 7 hits, so he's allowed 12 base runners because he's hit 2 guys as well in 13 and a third innings.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him. He was definitely ready to move up. I'm still on the fence of what he is. I just don't think there's a plus pitch there. I think it's like kind of like a couple 55s. So I think it's more like an up and down guy, like an up and down arm, than like a pure guy I would project as like a 6th inning guy or middle reliever. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him in AAA to see kind of like how he compares to some of the relievers they have there right now, like the Zach Kellys of the world, who like Kelly had been pitching really well and then had a bomb outing where he got destroyed. But compared to like him, Feltman, guys like that, to see how the stuff matches up.
For sure. Because the thing that came to mind as you were talking about him is how would you compare him to like a Feltman or a Bizzardo?
Well, exactly. And like
we'll see.
Yeah, and that's what's nice about having all those guys on the same team now.
Right.
But yeah, like Kelly, for example, Kelly had a stretch where he was like in his first, 4 appearances, he had like 6 walks, and then he had 1 walk at his next 7 appearances. So he was on a really, and then he had his last outing, of course, he had like 4 walks in it, but he was coming off a stretch of like 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 4 hits, like really well. And then, yeah, so there are definitely some guys down there to keep an eye on, and he kind of will slot right in, I would assume, near the end of the games with those other arms.
Mm-hmm. The next, I guess, transaction, I guess, to talk about, because to get to a guy that you alluded to, and a guy who was in that Worcester bullpen with John Schreiber. The transaction wasn't him. I said it right. I said Schreiber.
No. I forgot something we have to talk about and should have opened the show with.
Oh, what?
Noah Song.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we should have talked about that first.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely like the most important thing.
Oh, yeah. Well, but it's not yet. It's not yet.
I know, but like we really should have mentioned that first. We buried the lead, not talking about that.
Yeah, okay. I'll maybe try and splice something in if I remember. But okay, let's do Noah Song first. I mean, there's no news yet. The news is that Noah Song.
The news is we're waiting for news.
Yeah,
which Noah is news because we had no news.
Yes, Noah. Give me a minute while I digest that. Okay, I think I'm good. I
think I did that right.
I think
the news of the news was that there was no news. Yeah, whatever. I was close.
How much news could a news Chuck news?
Yeah.
So Noah Song has graduated from flight school. Congratulations to Noah Song and the Song family. And has reapplied for a waiver from the Navy. There is a whole, and I want to give a shout out to our boy Aaron Mehta, Ian, who came through with an extremely detailed email that I'm pulling up on my phone right now.
Nice. I saw the Capital Gazette, who I think is the Navy.
They were the ones who've been. No, it's just the Annapolis newspaper.
The Annapolis, sorry, not the Navy. The Annapolis newspaper.
But that guy has
had a good story on it too.
I don't know the name. I should know it, but they've been all over it.
Yeah. They seem to have some good sources over at the Navy Yard.
Yes. That's not the Navy Yard. The Navy Yard is in DC. Anyway.
Well, sorry.
So Aaron, our buddy, wrote in, and I'm going to try not to just straight read the whole thing. But he's funny. He opened with, so since I got to make my career highlight appearance on the podcast talking about this a few years back, I figured I'd send in some background about the Song situation.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Aaron he writes about the Department of Defense.
For Defense News.
Or that's what it is. For Defense publication.
News. So he's covering DOD.
So he's well-versed in these procedures and a lot of what's going on with this stuff.
His focus is more on strategy and tech than on personnel. But that said, he's basing this on what he's heard and read and talking to his colleagues and things like that. So the context for everyone who has forgotten over time. Actually, do we need to remind people who Noah Song is? Noah Song was a graduate of the Naval Academy. We might have some new
listeners, so probably it's worth
Noah Song is a graduate of the Naval Academy who the Red Sox took in the 4th round of the 2019 draft.
If he was not at the Naval Academy, he would not have been a 4th round pick either. He was
correct.
I think, a
late first, early second.
He was a Golden Spikes finalist, I want to say, that year. Correct. He was one of the best pitchers in the country.
Correct.
Yeah.
He wasn't considered like a top of the first round type guy, but he was a potential first round pick, if not for his military commitment, because he was at the Naval Academy.
Correct.
He was a graduating senior. He actually probably would have been drafted the year before, but he literally told teams, I am not leaving the Naval Academy. Because the thing is, I don't know if folks maybe don't realize this. You do not pay to attend a service academy. Your education is free. It's just that when you graduate, you have a commitment to serve in that branch of the armed forces.
Correct.
So he has a 5-year service commitment to the Navy. Song gets picked in the 4th round, signs for like $100K, way under slot.
And then he went to Lowell, and I saw him. I think you and I saw him together once, and I saw him like 4 times. He was disgusting.
How high did he get in the rankings?
Like top 10. I mean, he was nasty.
Top 10.
It was 7. I have the stats up now. 17 innings, 10 hits, 2 runs, 5 walks, 19 strikeouts. I think I saw him up to 99 with like an above average slider, above average changeup, and like a fringy show me curveball. Yeah. It was very good, like a very repeatable delivery, super athletic, like great frame. He's like 6'4", 200. Like, yeah.
Perfect. I mean, like very athletic. Yeah. Just build a pitcher, basically. The funny part is like the changeup, he didn't even know he had until
he barely threw it.
He barely threw it in college, and then he gets to Lowell and works with Sean Green.
No, Nick Green.
No, Nick Green. God, I always do that. Nick Green.
And it literally, I remember the first time I was there because I was with some amateur scouts who saw a song and they were like, WTF, like what is going on here? Because it just wasn't a pitch he had in college, and it was like his best secondary pitch there.
Yeah,
in some outings, and it was like, oh wow, this is good.
Yeah. So Song knew he was going to be at Lowell. He then like pitched for Team USA at the Premier 12 tournament, which
no. He reported to the academy and then got released for the Team USA tournament because it was like
but he did get like a waiver to pitch.
Yeah, he got a waiver to participate
because it was Team USA.
Correct.
They were like, okay, fine, you can go pitch in this month-long tournament.
Yeah, and he was arguably the best pitcher there for Team USA.
Yeah, I mean,
and this was one with like
short outings out of the bullpen, but still.
Yeah, but there were like high minors prospects there. There were other good prospects there. Yeah,
was one of the pitchers there.
Yeah,
who was at the time in like AA or AAA.
Yeah,
so looks great there. He applies for a waiver from his service commitment, basically to. I forget if it was to postpone. I guess I could just read the email, but he applied for a waiver. Think Joe Cardona is the guy who a lot of New England fans are equating this to, who he, of course, I think he was at West Point. Joe Cardona.
No, he was Navy also.
Was he Navy also?
The context that is different though.
Well, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get to it.
Yeah,
okay. Let me get to it. But so he had applied for a waiver, and the thing is, and so here, I'll get to that here in the email, but in the past, members of service academies have been able to apply for a waiver for their service to go into pro athletics. What that looks like can take different shapes, but it has a history of being approved because it's good PR. Think of Patriots long snapper Joe Cardona, who has continued to do service in the Naval Reserve during his 7-year career. That's been an easy PR win for the Navy, who gets a wave of good stories about him every Veterans Day, Memorial Day, Salute to Service Month, etc. His value on that front is probably significantly higher than it would be if he was just another sailor. However, Jim Mattis, who served as the defense secretary from 2017 to the end of 2018, put in new rules which effectively barred this from happening. Mattis was a big, quote, focus on lethality, end quote, guy who felt that if you're in the military, you have one job, which is national security, and anything else is junk. President Trump, big self-proclaimed sports guy that he was lobbied and agreed after Mattis left to change the rule. However, that didn't actually happen until the end of 2019. So that's what confused a lot of people. This is me jumping in now, is that by the time Song applied for his waiver, the rule had been changed.
Correct.
However, at the time he was commissioned as an officer, that was not the rule, and that's the rule that was going to apply.
Well, yeah, and what it was is you had to be the way the rule was written was it only applied to current students.
It was
or prospective athletes, and he had already
it was a prospective rule and not a retroactive.
Oh, yes,
rule,
correct. And because he had already graduated, it didn't apply to him.
Because he'd been commissioned is what it
commissioned,
was.
Because he'd been commissioned. Yeah.
When you're commissioned upon graduation as an officer in the Navy. So he is an officer, and one would presume a gentleman. So what is unique here? Oh, sorry. Okay. So while Song was drafted after Mattis left, his case came during the period before the new order came into effect. It also came at a time of crazy turnover at the Pentagon, which, as I understand, all contributed to him eventually giving up on the waiver attempt and going to flight school. And so what happened is his waiver was sitting there for literal months. But like,
because it was there he applied in the fall, I think in like September or October, and it was still there in April, which is when he altered it.
Keep in mind, like this was at the time when like they went through like 3 secretaries of defense in like a 3-month period or something insane, like intense turnover. You could tell it was just like, this is sitting on a desk that no one holds right now is the problem, because they need to appoint someone, and there was all kinds of other garbage going on. Anyway, so he decides, all right, I'm just going to withdraw my waiver. I guess the Navy had ruled on it, but it was going up to the Secretary of Defense. Or maybe the Secretary of the Navy.
No, I think Secretary of Navy.
Secretary of Navy. Right. Good call. So he just withdraws the waiver and says, screw it, I'll go to flight school.
No, he didn't withdraw it. He altered it to say that I'm actually good. I'm going to like enroll. or I'll go as planned or whatever. It's just a semantics, but it's
let's get the semantics right. Okay, so now he's reapplying, and he says, "What is?" So I had this same inclination. I'm glad that Aaron had it too. He says, "What is unique here is that Song is not applying directly out of the service academy, but now he's applying after having completed flight school. Clearly, there is some option for that, or he wouldn't have applied for it. So let's assume it would work effectively under the same rules. If so, then by the standards we've seen set, Song should be likely to get the waiver. But that uniqueness of this happening after further Navy investment in him is the question mark for me. The idea being like, not only has the Navy paid for his education, they've also now paid for him to become a pilot. Right, that is not cheap. He has flown, or I guess he's
not a pilot. He's this was in the Capital Gazette article.
Flight officer.
He is a naval flight officer who serves as a navigator, lookout, and weapons operator. Because I think he's too tall to be a pilot.
Right. Okay.
I'm actually positive he's too tall to be a pilot because that's a thing.
Yes, we've talked about that in the last episode about how I blacked out on a roller coaster once. Anyway.
Yeah.
So now what Aaron says here, this is interesting, that the tongue-in-cheek, he says, wild card here is, of course, that Massachusetts natives currently dominate the Joint Chiefs of Staff, including General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who is a Winchester native and avowed Sox fan, who once described himself as being, quote, from the holy land of Boston, end quote. And most importantly,
didn't know this part.
Yes, right. This is
why
awesome.
We have Aaron. Yeah.
Aaron's the man. And most importantly, the top Navy officer, Admiral Mike Gilday, who hails from Lowell and helped throw out the first pitch in a 2021 game at Fenway.
No way. Okay.
Gilday was the one who denied Song last time, but now freed of the previous guidance, he may be more willing to do a favor for the home team. Anyway, TLDR, there's some uncertainty here, but I would expect he gets cleared this time. If nothing else, I'm sure there were discussions with his commanders ahead of him making the decision to reapply. So he at least is starting on solid ground. That's awesome. Aaron, you're the man, dude.
Yeah. And it's interesting to... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One more thing, because I followed up with this because I kind of got this... I was wondering about this because I saw this being discussed on the board, is the whole, like, why is he being held hostage by the Navy?
He's not being held hostage.
He's not, first of all, because he has said... Song has said, look, if I never play baseball and I serve my time in the Navy, I'll be a perfectly happy person.
Yeah.
Right? But I asked, like, look, what is the stick, right, of keeping him in the Navy? Because what I figured was it was some combination of paying back his education, because that's why, like, part of why he didn't apply for the draft as a junior is, like, if you just leave the service academy, you owe the money for your 3 years of school, right? Like, they're not just like, okay, yeah, sorry it didn't work out. Like, you owe them the money back for your education. So Aaron says he ran this by his friend, and the answer is, probably. It's hard to say what happens because every case can be different. And frankly, no one I've talked to can remember anyone going through flight school and then saying no. So we're a bit unprecedented here. It seems what he would have to repay is the 4 years of school, at least. Given his length of service being short, he may have to give up long-term benefits, pension, TRICARE, special veteran status for businesses, etc. But they can't compel him to stay. The question about, then I asked would it be like a dishonorable or an honorable discharge? He said, what the discharge would look like, the question seems to really go down as to how much the commanders up the chain are pissy about it. As a pure example, a friend suggested that while the discharge paperwork is slowly working its way through things, Song could end up serving in the ass end of Alaska, which I thought was a great way to put it.
So, yeah, that's if he was like, I'm done. Like, I want to play
if
baseball.
He just was,
but it's clear he doesn't want to do that. He's fine being a reservist. So I do think it's interesting, though, that in the Capital Gazette article, it talks about that. So he still has like a management firm for athletics representing him in this. So it's clear, like, I'm assuming this is coordinated with them and their lawyers and everything. So, I mean, it's just kind of a wait and see. And I think the wild card here, and this is something to remember and why we removed him from the rankings, is we have no idea what he's going to look like baseball shape wise. I mean,
someone asked me, like, how quick is he going to get out of the complex? I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Like, who knows? For all we know, he's not set foot on a mound for 2.5, 3 years.
Ben Crockett did apparently say that he has been undertaking some kind of activity.
Yeah, but it wasn't clear how baseball it was. Yeah. I read that. It was like they gave him guidance over things he could do using the limited resources he had. But we don't. Who knows what that is? Who knows what that is exactly?
Yeah. So I mean, look, it's entirely possible he spends this entire year at the complex.
I mean, it's entirely possible the waiver doesn't get granted this year too.
Well, right. But I'm just saying, like, even if the waiver gets granted and he shows up in
I mean, he could show up in Fort Myers and be throwing like 88 again for all we know. Like, we just have no idea.
For all we know, his stuff never comes back is the other thing, right? Like you said. I mean, I was listening to, was it Goldstein's podcast? Well, he was at Fangraphs that he had Kylie on, and he was talking about while he was with Houston, I think it was, they drafted a guy and like super nice kid. Or no, I know what it was. It was Keith Law talking about while he was with the Blue Jays. They drafted a kid who was gone for 2 years, came back, and he was throwing like low 80s when he came back. And it was just he was like super nice kid. We were all super bummed, but like he never made it back to an affiliate.
Yeah.
Like he just,
I mean, we just don't know. And I'm still kind of operating under the same thing that I'm not going to rank him until I see him on a mound and get reports. And I mean, we're just kind of in a wait and see mode with him. Yeah. But I mean, it's nice. I think just that we finally have something concrete to build upon now.
Mm-hmm. Do we want to go with the Schreiber talk real quick? Cause we already alluded to it, and then we'll take a quick break.
Sure. Can we fit it in 5 minutes?
I think we can.
Okay.
I think we can. So, I mean, we'll at least start it here. So getting back to my prior transition, which failed, John Schreiber is like the second best reliever in Boston right now, as you alluded to. And this past weekend, the Red Sox were kind of at a precipice roster-wise where they had Rich Hill coming back from the COVID injured list. And they had to figure out what to do with the 40-man because the 40-man was full, not just the active roster. We were talking about this internally, and one thing that we had talked about previously, just really quick, because there's not a whole lot to talk about with this. One way they could free up a spot on the 40-man roster would have been putting Josh Taylor on the 60-day injured list, because it's going to be 60 days before he comes back. They did that on the 12th, activating Jonathan Aruz from the COVID-related injured list and optioning him to Worcester. So that was already done. That 40-man spot taken by Aruz now. So how are they going to get Rich Hill back on the roster? I thought the most likely move was going to be optioning or sending back down Schreiber and figuring it out from there, where Schreiber was a COVID-19 replacement. He could have been removed from the 40-man roster without exposing him to waivers. That said, the reason you keep him up is because he's one of your best relievers, like you said. So I didn't know. To me, there was really only one kind of clear guy for them to DFA at this point. We're getting to the point where there might be more, but for me right now, there was the one, and that's what they did. They designated Jalen Davis for assignment and optioned Cutter Crawford to Worcester. You were saying you thought that was probably what they were probably going to do.
Yeah, that was what I expected the move to be, because I just think it sends the wrong message when you're trying to say that both to the people, you know, within the organization and on the team, and to the fans, that, but more importantly, like to the team, that like, hey, this guy's been pitching lever. He had 3 straight holds, including and a save. Like, he'd been clearly, like, Cora trusts him. They're throwing him in leverage situations. I mean, tonight they brought him in with the bases loaded and 2 outs to face a righty to get out of an inning. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it was 2 guys on, but you know, whatever. It's a leverage situation in a tight game. Yep. And I just think that given the state of that bullpen, if they were to send him down, that just sends such a horrible message that I just didn't see any chance that it was going to happen.
And I'm glad that this is what they did, because that's the right move. I just think that this team has been so, like, under Heimblum, so adamant about keeping as much depth as possible. And I was wrong about this, to be clear. And this kind of pops up the following weekend or the following day, where rather than call up Connor Siebold for a spot start, and the reason Cora gives that they don't do that is it would have made the roster difficult or something like that. I forget what the wording was. I don't know if you remember.
That didn't make sense to me, but
the reason it what he's saying is they would have had to have optioned one of Brazier, Sawamura, or who was the third one with options? Tyler Danish.
Yeah, I don't see the issue there at all.
Well, right, and then you basically you just call back up Phillips Valdez.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think that's an issue at all.
I don't either, and I don't know whether
I honestly I'm not sure the
options thing.
I also don't think any of those 3 guys, frankly, should be in the bullpen. Mm-hmm. Like, Brazier's been like one of the worst relievers in all of baseball this year.
Yes.
Like, did you know hitters are slugging 957? Sorry, the expected slugging against Brazier's fastball this year is 957. Yeah. Hitters are slugging 929 off it. They're hitting like 460. Like, he's getting lit.
He's been very bad.
And that's the thing is like, I think they need to turn over in this area. And like, that's why I don't like really understand why they're saying that they were like roster, like mechanics at play, because any of those three guys could go down and I don't think anyone would bat an eye.
So that kind of comes to a head with this whole Seabold thing and why they didn't call him up. And I just, does it say something about what the team is looking at with Seabold? Does it say so? Because I mean, the interesting thing too, where they're sending Crawford down and they're going to put him in the rotation, which is, I don't know if they're going to do it on kind of like what they were doing with Darwinson type deal.
Well, I'm wondering if it's just going to be like a 3-inning thing to get him bulk innings.
Yes, exactly. Just to get him looks.
Yeah, kind of probably what I'm thinking it is.
That makes sense.
I don't see any reason to make him a true starter. I don't get that at all because he's not a starter. Like if anything, that his first major league stint should show you it's his issues are things that are not going to work well in the rotation. He doesn't throw enough quality strikes. Quality hard contact is way too high. Like your command is not going to get better. He's not going to get to a level command like wise to be able to start. So I'm going to guess it's going to be like the Darwinson plan where he's going 2 to 3 innings every 4 or 5 days.
Yeah. Because the thing is they're still going to have Thomas Pannone. They're still going to have Brian Keller. They've still got Carlos Martinez. They've got a lot of guys in that rotation in addition to the, Bello, Seabold, Winkowski trio. Who they want to get bulk innings. So I think that they're prepping a bunch of bulk innings guys basically right now, which is a fair thing to be doing. I just don't get staying away from Seabold. And I wonder, we wound up looking at it. I mean, we each talked to contacts with scouts who we got multiple guys who threw, number 5 starter projections on Seabold. But then we're also hearing in other outlets that like, he's more of an up and down type guy. I don't know. I mean, what's your take on what he is and what the team thinks he is or what here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because as you said, we've been doing some digging on it. And I think for me, I have to get out of my mind what he was in 2019 at the beginning of 2021, because that pitcher doesn't exist anymore. It seems like his stuff is not the same as it was then. And I don't think it will be again. It seems that way. Mm-hmm. And yes, what he's doing this year, as far as I understand, having, talked to some people who've seen him and also done some other digging on the numbers, his stuff is up from the end of last year. It's not all the way back. It is up though. Like his fastball velocity is up. So that is encouraging, but like his changeup is still not to the level it was before. And it's still inconsistent. The breaking ball is, it is what it is. It's average-ish, maybe it'll tick better. So, he's a guy with like a bucket of 50s, and that type of pitcher, you have to have pinpoint command for that to work.
Right.
And if you don't trust the command profile, then he probably is more of an up and down guy. Cause like some of the underlying metrics aren't, they're pretty similar to last year. There's not a lot of noticeable changes there. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So even if the numbers are better results wise, there are some red flags still. And that's why, like, I think that, you just kind of have to reset expectations. He's not going to be coming and be like a 2 or a 3 or even probably a 4. Like if he is able to stick, it's probably going to be as like a number 5 starter who's, a 4.50 ERA type guy. Mm-hmm. So, that's the thing and for me, I mean, the fact that they're kind of avoiding him for now and they might not believe he's ready. Like that's a perfectly defensible argument. They might want to see more, see if consistently pitching in AAA, they can unlock something and get that stuff back to where it was before, when his fastball was like more in like the 93 range compared to like 91-ish, 92, where it is now. Mm-hmm. But I actually wasn't that surprised they didn't go to him. I didn't think that was likely at all. I think that honestly, and with how that game played out, like it worked out fine. Davis gave him 2 good innings. Houck gave him 3 innings and kept them in the game. The problem was they brought in these bullpen guys that we keep mentioning every show that probably shouldn't be in the majors, and they got bombed. And like, I don't know what you're supposed to do, when like Brazier comes in and gives up like 4 runs and then Danish gives up 2 more. Like to me, I think their plan worked fine. Like the guys that pitched the first 5 innings were good. Well, it was just the guys afterwards that were the problem. And Like I think the better, stronger argument to me would be to call up. They should have called up Winkowski to pitch like 2 or 3 innings, and have him just be like another bulk guy, and that would push Houck further back and push Davis further back, etc. That I could understand, but I don't think like. Would I like to see Siebel get a shot and do? And if I talk to people who think he should get one eventually, yes, but I don't blame them for not calling him up yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my point is, and because we were talking past each other in the Slack about this. My point was, if you call up Siebel, then he gives you 4 good ones. Now you're going to Davis in the 5th and not the 1st, and you're going to Houck in the 7th, and he's closing the game. Is that how they would have played it? I don't know.
Right, but I think
Houck probably follows him first, right? Yeah. You maybe go Siebold for 4. Siebold gets at least 1 turn through the order, maybe starts a second. He definitely doesn't get a 3rd.
No.
Right. And then you go to Houck.
I think though that they just clearly don't think he's ready. And like, that's a defensible argument. There are people who might not agree with it, but they have more information, they have access to a lot of data, and I can see, there are definitely some cause for concern that I've seen also that I will understand why you wouldn't want to call him up yet.
Fair enough. All right. And nothing else really on the transaction front, Ian. Any other news? I think that's about it for the news. Do we want to jump to emails, or is there anything else we need to talk about?
I will.
Well, Marcelo Meyer came back.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple more. Like Christopher Troy got promoted, or added, I guess, to Salem. The Brian Lucas thing. Cutter Crawford went down, which you mentioned. Cannon went on the DL. Yeah, there hasn't really been. It's
a lot of minor type, in season transactional type stuff. But yeah,
Marcelo. No pun intended, but the Meyer thing. Yeah, that was funny. The Meyer thing.
Yeah, Meyer, as we mentioned, had been out since April 23rd. At first, due to some workload management, and then for right wrist soreness. He came back and played on Tuesday. He DH'd. Keith Law caused like a minor uproar. I don't know why Keith Law got thrown under the bus. This is why like people on the internet, people on Twitter kind of suck sometimes is really what this comes down to. Law literally said his bat looks slow, but it's probably because of either rust or the wrist injury. I'm sure I just saw him on the wrong day. The swing path looked fine. Yeah. I mean, I think though that's why, you don't evaluate guys off one game looks. Like, and you don't write them up after one game.
No,
look like that. Or at least you just say like, I mean, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. He was at a game that Marcelo Meyer was at. Is he supposed to not say anything about it?
No, I mean, I understand. I'm sure that's what he saw. So that's what he wrote.
Heavily caveated. Yeah. Heavily.
I just think that's what's like, that's why like you don't see people going like usually if you're going for multiple games because you want to, but it also wouldn't work in Meyer's case because I don't think he played.
Well, he then didn't play again until
Saturday. He didn't play again until Sunday.
He didn't play till Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, because he had 3 doubles on Sunday.
Right. He was back on Sunday and was great. I guess it was just a case of the team being very cautious with him coming out of the injury and making sure he's all the way back, especially when he didn't look great on Tuesday, which we got reports that squared with what Law said.
Yeah.
Frankly, that squared with everything Law said in his article, by the way.
Yeah.
So.
And like, that's the thing is like he caveated enough that I didn't have an issue with it. Like I saw that and someone sent this to me and I was like, yeah, this is fine. Like, I mean, he's not wrong, but like, he's not saying that that's like who he is. Right. It's just like he caught him on a bad day, which I mean, I think the difference is just like usually if I go to a game and I see like a hitter on a bad day, I just won't mention them. Like,
right.
But I understand like with someone like Meyer, it's hard not to mention them when you see them.
Yep. For a top 25, 30 guy, that makes sense. So Meyer's back. That's a good thing. Brandon Walter stumbling a little bit his last 2 starts. I'm not worried about it. Like I said, someone asked, why, I thought Walter might go up too, but he's struggled his last couple starts. Like, look, his last couple starts aren't why he didn't get promoted. He didn't get promoted because he's at 36 innings in AA.
And also having watched those 2 games, their defense has let him down considerably. Like there were, I think like Christian Koss made 3 errors in the first
one of them.
Yeah. And then yesterday Howlett made like, I think 2 errors or 1 error that led to multiple runs. Like the defense in Portland is not kind for pitchers. I'll just say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're keeping an eye on everything else happening in the system. And unless you've got anything else you want to touch on real quick.
Do you want to shout out the player of the weeks quickly since we
Oh
we
yeah,
we
haven't really been doing that. So the players of the week,
I feel like we should start doing it since we're recording on a Monday.
That's true. So our players of the week this week, let me pull up the statistics. So I don't want stat. I want Steph. Okay. The player of the week is Blaze Jordan, which I think folks will be very happy about on the internet because
he's had a very good week.
He is the internet
statistically.
He is the internet's favorite Red Sox prospect. I'm slowly pulling up the stats. Here we go. Not stats, the person, the statistics. And Blaze Jordan for the week in come on. There we go. It's come. Okay. In 5 games, 22 at bats, 9 hits, 4 doubles and 2 home runs. Only 2 Ks, only 2 walks, but a robust 1.322 OPS was enough to take home the award for him. Also coming up with great weeks were Tyler McDonough in Greenville, David Hamilton in Portland, and Edinson Paulino in Salem were also on the poll for Player of the Week. And
we should mention
narrowly missing is Briner Bonassi. Okay, McDonough. Yes,
McDonough was in Asheville.
That's true, but he still had a good week.
No, I know. I'm just saying that as we've talked about Asheville, and that Astros affiliate yeah.
Yep, but Paulino and Bonassi both had good weeks as well. David Hamilton had a pretty good week. 7 hits, including a double, a triple, and a home run. And 2 steals. Paulino and Bonassi both had steals as well. Bonassi had a weird week. He went 9 for 19 with 7 walks. He just didn't have a single extra base hit.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of what he is. Like,
right.
He walks a ton. It's a very passive approach. He hits singles, but he doesn't have any power. Like he's 5'8", 5'9", and he's not trying to hit for power. It's just a weird profile. I'm not any. Yeah, it's a very strange profile. He's a complicated guy to rank for me because he's a very unique prospect in that regard.
It's just weird for me to have a 615 OBP guy not make the poll for the week.
Yeah, but he also had a 474 slug.
Exactly, and that's why.
I think. Oh, sorry. Just on Salem though, I was just going to say that it's obviously they had a very good week against a Delmarva team that's also not very good, frankly. But I do think that the Paulinho thing, like his season numbers don't look great. But he's
been hot lately.
He's been very, very good of late. And I want to shout out James Dunn, who mentioned him when we did that Nesson broadcast during spring training.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was not who I was. I'll be honest, not who I was. We can say it now. Not who I was expecting to say it all with that.
We thought I'm like, dude, TC served up Miguel Blaze for you on a platter.
Yeah. I'm sure some people were like, oh, after his April where, he was 194, 268, 375. They were like, oh, that's interesting. But in May, he's 346, 422, 582 with 6 strikeouts. And this is the most encouraging thing to me. 6 strikeouts and 64 plate appearances, 7 walks, 1 home run, 2 triples, 6 doubles. Like he might be, other than Marcelo Meyer, the best hitter on that team. And I think that he's someone who the hit tool is actually like surprisingly advanced, and the defense will have to wait and see, but I'm just very encouraged by what I'm, kind of having watched some of their games these past couple of weeks on MILB TV, and then also getting some reports from people who have seen them over the past couple of weeks, especially this month. The stuff coming back on feedback coming back on Paulino is very encouraging, as are the numbers behind this that are kind of come with it too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. On the pitching side for the week, it really came down to 2 guys, and the decision went to Brian Bello, who went 6 innings, 6 scoreless, allowing 3 hits and a walk while striking out 5. The very close runner-up was Juan Daniel Encarnacion in Salem, who went 6 innings, allowed 1 run, but on 2 hits and a walk while striking out 8. In Delmarva, had a very good outing himself. The other kind of honorable mentions would be Worcester reliever Silvino Bracho, who went 4 perfect innings over the course of 2 outings, striking out 5.
I was about to say, how did Siebold not get on it? But I realized he pitched twice.
He had two starts.
Because if it was just Sunday, he 100% would have won
it. Siebold had 2 starts, and in one of them he gave up 5 earned runs.
Yeah, because the Sunday start was 6 innings, 11 strikeouts.
Here's the crazy thing: he gave up 5 runs in 9 innings last week on a 553 OPS against.
Yeah, it was like he got singled to death.
Yeah, the death by 1,000 paper cuts, basically. But the other runners up, Angel Bastardo, who went 5 innings, allowed 1 earned run on no hits and 4 walks, striking out 7. So he went 5 no-hit innings, but allowed a run. I think it was like walk.
Yeah, he walked
fly
4
or something.
That was the game where they had a no-hitter going until I want to say the 8th or the 9th.
Something like that. Yeah, and they were losing.
Yeah. No. That was the Reds game. They were winning.
No, Salem did the same thing.
I thought Salem was winning that entire game.
I thought I slacked you about it.
I'm pretty sure they were winning that entire game.
Okay, now I'm curious.
Are we looking?
Yeah. What night was it?
I don't know. Tuesday? No, Wednesday. Would have been Wednesday.
Guess I could look for Salem. Not Sapum. This is fascinating audio. Dude, Salem is no-hitting Delmarva. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually looking up the game.
They were up. Oh, they gave up 2 runs, but they were up. They were winning while no-hitting Delmarva. But
that's what I said. They were winning.
The weird thing was they had given up 2 runs.
Yeah, I knew they were winning though.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. You were right. What I was thinking of was because 1 inning it went like walk, fielder's choice, sack fly or something. I forget. Anyway.
Yeah, because the hit didn't come until the 7th inning, so they had a no hitter through 7,
or into 7,
or into the 7th. Yeah. Oh no, it was actually through 8. Oh no, it was the 7th. It was the 7th. No, it was the 7th. 2 outs. Yeah,
innings are hard.
It was with 2 outs in the 7th inning. Nate Tellier gave up a single to make it 5-4. That's what it was. Yeah.
The final honorable mention this week was actually Jay Groom, who went 6 2/3. He gave up 2 runs on a home run, but 7 Ks to 1 walk and 2 hits, one of which was the homer, unfortunately. But he had a good outing despite the 2 runs. But I think actually, I think I forget if he made the poll or Bastar. I think Groom might have been the last one out on the poll because of the 2 runs allowed. But that said, kind of an okay-ish week for pitchers, especially because we didn't get the Siebold Sunday start in there by itself. So anyway, that's the week in highlights. And so I guess we'll move on to our emails, Ian. If you want to email us, hit us up at podcast@soxprospects.com. As we like to say, we want to talk about what you all want to hear about. So go ahead and send us your thoughts, questions, concern, whatever, at podcast@soxprospects.com. And our first email, Ian, comes from our friend Brian, formerly of SoxSignatures.com. But not anymore. Anyway, Brian says, "Hey, Chris and Ian, thanks for the great content for all these years. You guys have really done a more source for the Red Sox. Eat that, Carabas. My question is around using money as a competitive advantage. Obviously, MLB has set up all kinds of spending limits on player salaries, draft bonuses, international spending, etc. But for big markets like Boston, why not throw their financial weight behind resources that aren't restricted? What stops them from spending far and away the most in MLB on scouting, coaching, front office personnel, and something like MLB players' benefits, like food, lodging, and salaries? Is it just owners not wanting to be singled out by other owners for, quote, overspending, end quote? Owners having their own personal budget limits they won't go over. Why can't the Red Sox throw money at having the best organization in baseball before a player even takes the field? Thanks." Ian, for me, my initial response is, how do we know they don't on some of this stuff? First of all, they do hire more coaches. I mean, they've got 3 hitting coaches this year. They've got...
Yeah, I think they have one of the, their coaching numbers and their scouting departments are very beefed up compared to a lot of other teams.
A lot of other teams have been cutting scouting departments, and theirs has not gone down an iota.
No.
They have multiple, they have like 5 coaches at each level of the minors, which is not typical. 5 or 6, I think, at this point. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, they definitely do use those advantages.
They basically have 2 full coaching staffs in Fort Myers.
Yeah, I think they're obviously it's, you know, the second part when it comes to like care for minor leaguers has obviously been kind of like a hot topic the last couple of years and something that teams are having to work on and improve upon. And it seems like this year, you know, they've done a much better job with the lodging accommodations now, kind of part of the package and everything.
Yeah, well, that's every major league team has to pay for lodging for players now, but I guess the Red Sox stuff has been great.
Yeah. So yeah, they do these
They
things.
pay their players during extended spring training, which is not something that every major league team does. The problem is like no owner is going to go out and pay all their minor leaguers like $30K more than everybody else.
Exactly. And this is the problem is, when you're operating within the thing, you don't want to be that outlier owner because I mean, we're seeing like with Steve Cohen, the Steve Cohen rules that they're literally putting in like the CBA because other owners are terrified of him. Mm-hmm. Like you don't want to push it too far because then they're going to start putting active limits on things like coaching and, number of roving instructors and scouts and stuff like that.
Although I do have to say, did you see the report about the Penguins today? So the Penguins was, of course, just got bought by Fenway Sports Group. Apparently made like super low ball extension offers to Evgeny Malkin and
Sidney Crosby.
Not Crosby. I forget who the other guy was.
I couldn't name another Penguin. So
but it apparently pissed off Crosby. And I'm just someone I think it was actually Joe Haggerty who said Fenway Sports Group is going to Fenway Sports Group, but.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Liverpool's doing the same thing with like Salah and Mane right now, which delights me to no end. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Don't get me started on Liverpool. But yeah, no, it's going to be but I guess now that we're on the topic, Xander Bogaerts is apparently now open to discussing his extension during the season.
Go
Shocker.
Figure.
Didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
It was always, if they offered him enough money, he's going to agree to deal whenever it is. That's what it comes down to. And I still stand by that. Like if they pony up, he'll sign a deal midseason. It doesn't matter.
All these players that say I don't want to discuss it midseason is they're really saying like
don't come to me unless what they're saying is don't come to me unless the offer is worth my while. Exactly. Just leave me alone unless you're making a legitimate offer is what they're saying.
Right. All right. Our next email comes from Brendan. He says, before I get to my questions, I just want to give you guys a huge thanks. You have reinvigorated my love for baseball and the Red Sox. I came across your podcast on Spotify and gave it a listen. It was instantly hooked. When I was younger and really into the team, prospects were my interest in going back some 15 years or so. SP was my go-to site to check for the insight on the organization's future. You guys make my drives home relaxing and always excited for the next Red Sox game. TLDR, thanks for everything you do with the Red Sox prospects. You've made me love the game again. Awesome. Thank you, Brendan. Now for his questions. First,
that is a great. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Brendan.
Extremely nice. First up, he says, what's up with Elmer Rodriguez? He was one of the earlier pitchers taken last year, but I haven't heard much about him. Intriguing arm. Too early to tell what his future is. Elmer Rodriguez is in extended spring training right now. He was extremely young, and we knew he was a project when the Red Sox took him in the 4th round, right? Last year.
Yes.
He's in extended spring training. He will pitch in the Florida Complex League when that starts on June the 6th.
He posted some video of him throwing, and I think he was up to 96. I want to say.
Yeah, it looked really good. I forgot about that.
That was pretty interesting. He's also very skinny still, but
very tiny.
No, skinny, not tiny.
Not
he's
tiny.
He's like 6'4".
I'm used to the word tiny because I own a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's like 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". But I mean, the fact that he's up to 96 is encouraging because I remember coming out of the draft when I was doing some intel and like, he was mostly like 90 to 93, I was hearing. So, if he's topping out 96, potentially already, that's definitely a slight increase. I think the high I heard was 95 before. So that's definitely, interesting. Well, but it's with all those guys, it's going to be a wait and see until the FCL or didn't the name change? Can we call it the Gulf Coast League again or something?
That's a good question.
Is it? I thought it was back. I thought
they
it was
went back to calling
League
everything else the old league names. That's a good question. I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
It's still the Florida Complex League.
I mean, it makes
sense. Or at least their website is still the Florida Complex League. Oh no, it definitely is because it says Florida Complex League set to begin on June 6th. So it is still the Florida Complex League.
Okay. Great sleuthing. The second question that Brendan asked is, could you explain the new Rookie of the Year / draft pick rule in baseball? Could it affect when we see Casas at all this year? On the first part of that, I'll suggest we talked about this in the episode coming out of the lockout. And so we won't go into it in depth here, but it basically comes down to if you finish in the top, is it?
Well, we talked about it earlier in the episode also.
But talking about the Rookie of the Year rule specifically is you get a compensation pick if you're, the Rookie of the Year one isn't a draft pick. The Rookie of the Year one is if a guy finishes in the top 3 of the Rookie of the Year voting, they get the full year of service time, no matter when they came up. That's what the Rookie of the Year rule is. That's one of them. The other one is if a guy is up at the beginning of the year and finishes near the top of the Rookie of the Year voting, then you get a compensation pick. And actually, if they're in awards, if they're in the top of awards voting in later years, you still get the pick, I think. Is that right? Something like that. But we talk about it in depth in the episode coming out of the lockout. It's the longest
I have it here.
Okay. Thank you. My hero.
Wait, where did it go? I just had it. Oh wait, this article doesn't. Oh wait, no, it doesn't have it. No,
while you keep looking for it, the Casas thing, I don't think it's going to affect when we see him this year. They're going to call him up when they think he's ready. Because look, I mean, they could use him. I think they just don't want to rush him up to be the savior and have him not be ready. Is the crucial thing that's on.
Here it is. A team is eligible for prospect promotion incentive draft pick if a rookie eligible player with 60 days or fewer of service time is included and who is included on a preseason top 100 list is promoted and finishes high in the award voting in any year before he is eligible for arbitration. So Casas would be eligible for that. They would get an amateur draft pick for rookie of the year or top 3 in MVP or Cy Young, and an international selection for second or third in rookie of the year. And the team can gain most 1 PPI pick in the amateur draft and 3 total PPI picks for a prospect in their career.
There you go. PPI picks. Say that 10 times fast.
Prospect Performance Index.
Love it. All right. Our next email comes from John B. And the Sloop John B asks, hi, Ian and Chris. There you go. Do you think the Red Sox need to do a better job drafting and developing corner outfielders? I'm not suggesting a return to the bad old days of Greg Blosser and Phil Plantier, but the current prospect pipeline is disproportionately middle infielders and center fielders. While some of these guys are probably capable of playing left field or right field, types of athletes who play middle infield or center field typically don't have the same offensive upside of more traditional left fielders and right fielders. And yes, I realize Mookie Betts was the giant exception. The other guy you're forgetting, John, is the left fielder on that 2018 team. Andrew Benintendi was a center fielder. So I don't think there's anything specific to the corner outfield pipeline. I mean, and I think I'm going to guess where you're going, Ian. The current top outfield prospect who is playing center field in Worcester.
Yeah, Jarren Duran's not a center fielder. Miguel Blaze, I think, is a center fielder. I'm just looking down. Like Blaze Jordan I guess he's not.
He's an infielder.
He's an infielder, but you could try him in left field. Like same with Benelis. Brian Fitzgerald. Yeah, I mean, they don't have a lot of like true corner outfield prospects, but if you go through like the top prospect lists, and I mean, I'm just going to bring up like Fangraphs right now. But I'm going to tell you where there aren't that many because teams don't value that position. They find a center fielder and they make him a corner outfielder. Like if you're looking at the top, all right, Riley Green is 6th. He's a right fielder. The next corner outfielder on the list is Alec Thomas at 24. Like it's not that many. It's a lot of up the middle guys. And that's just the way the game is going, that teams are looking for up the middle guys. And if they're good enough and if they don't fit there defensively, you move them to the corner outfield. And I think that, you're trying to draft to maximize value. You're not trying to draft to fill needs. And when you're doing that, you're taking your best player available. And oftentimes those guys are going to be up the middle because that's just, you want guys who bring defensive value and offensive value. You're looking for two-way players. And, you don't want to get stuck into drafting a guy because you think he's a good offensive player, who can play left field, maybe fake it. Like that profile doesn't have the highest success rate I think we've seen.
And I mean, look, Mookie Betts was a second baseman until he got to Double-A, right? And for the beginning of his time in Double-A. So drafting for a specific position or developing for a specific position is not the way to do it. If you have too many guys at a position, you can trade one for someone you need
or you can just like looking at the Red Sox currently, like let's just hypothetically say they keep Xander Bogaerts and they keep Trevor. Obviously they're going to have Trevor Story and Nick York is ready to play in the big leagues. Would it surprise me if Nick York is a left fielder? Absolutely not.
True. Good point.
There are guys up the middle in the system who you're not thinking about right now who could end up playing corner outfield.
Or in the majors, guys move around like this. Like last year, the Red Sox they signed Kike Hernandez as a free agent, and like he becomes the starting center fielder, and he's a stud there defensively. Like no one saw that coming.
Or like Ryan Fitzgerald is being played in right field right now. Like
he's playing a ton of right field right now. Actually, and Ryan. Well, Rob Refsnyder's playing a lot of right field now that he's back down, but like Fitzgerald's playing a lot of corner outfield right now. So maybe he's a guy that they play in the corner outfield a lot as part of moving him around the diamond.
Exactly.
Our next email comes from Matt in Cumberland, Rhode Island. He says, "Hey, Chris and Ian, I'll try to keep this one short. If Noah Song's waiver to play baseball is approved and he reports to the Red Sox sometime this summer, what do the Red Sox do about the Rule 5 draft next winter? Assuming players' eligibility isn't delayed a year due to the lack of a draft last year, of course. Is it a matter of he's just got to show he's still got his potential, that he'd be worth using a 40-man spot until he comes up in, let's say, 2024? Or do they gamble that no other team will select him considering how much development he missed? Thanks, Matt from Cumberland, Rhode Island." I was thinking about this, Ian, because I read this email when we were talking about Song earlier, but forgot to bring it up. So I'm glad Matt asked. Noah Song is eligible for the Rule 5 draft this winter. That's not going to change. They're not going to add a year to guys' eligibility.
No.
That's got to be collectively bargained. What they do with him depends on what he does when he comes back, if he comes back.
Yeah, and
that's all it is.
It's impossible to say. Like, for all we know, he might not even be on the mound like he might not get his waiver until the end of the summer, and we'll barely see him. Like,
yeah,
it's impossible to say until we know the exact date he's coming back and see him on a mound.
Put it this way. The only way he gets protected is if he comes back and has not lost a step and shows that for like multiple months. Because keep in mind, for a team to select him in Rule 5, he has to stay in the major league roster all year. That's asking a lot out of a guy who has not pitched since 2019.
Right. And I mean, we were talking about like the guy who, I think it was like a Mormon mission or whatever Law was talking about. He came back, he had no stuff. Like,
no, that was another service guy, but
was it? Okay. Yeah. It's just so hard to say. Like,
yep.
Like I'm not even like, I wouldn't be surprised if he came back and they were just like, you're going to be a reliever. Like, there's no point in trying to build you up to be a starter. Like, let's just let you air it out in the bullpen and see what happens. Like, that would not surprise me at all. But like, it's so hard to say that I don't, at this point, I don't think there's any chance he gets protected, but like, it's who knows? Yeah.
I mean, he's 25. Or he turns 25 at the end of the month.
Well, exactly. And that's why I honestly think that if I were them, I would just stick him in the bullpen. Because
I mean, look at it this way. He's as old as Brendan Walter.
If he's 25, he's thrown 20 career innings. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to put him in Salem next year for an entire season. Then he's in Greenville the following year. Then maybe he gets up to Portland. Like, in 3 years, he's going to be 27, having been Rule 5 eligible. Like, that's just, I don't think that works timeline wise. I think you have to just put him in the bullpen and try to, like, if this is assuming his stuff is like anywhere
or something,
or even close to where it was. Like, I think you just stick him in the bullpen and let him ride. And because of his age and like the service, the 40-man stuff, you kind of have to, like, you can't, play it slow and try to develop him as a starter, in my opinion. But I mean, we're getting ahead here. The waiver hasn't even been granted yet.
Exactly. But I mean, great question though, because it is weird to see him on the Rule 5 eligible list. Because meanwhile, like, his clock for minor league free agency has been paused. So he's not a minor league free agent for like 4 more years. So anyway, okay, this next email is really long. I'm going to try and distill it. So just a reminder, everyone, when you send a long email, it's really hard for us to read the whole thing. But this email, Josh asks in this email, I've heard many discussions on and off the podcast about how Jarren Duran might fit onto this Red Sox roster. I've heard many people clamoring for him to replace Jackie Bradley, but no one seems to be considering a platoon with Kike Hernandez in center field. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. It seems like the best option to me for a couple of reasons. Among them, he lists that Kike Hernandez has had extreme right-left splits so far this year. As a lefty center fielder, Duran's a natural platoon partner. 2, Hernandez is solid defensively and can play any infield or outfield position. He would have value beyond the box score in his classic super utility role. This is not true for Jackie Bradley. 3, Bradley in right field would help cover for Duran in center field. If Duran is just that bad in center field, though, Bradley could easily shift to center field to keep Duran's bat in the lineup. 4, Bradley has been more productive on both sides of the ball than Kike this season. His WRC plus is 22 points above Kike's, and he's put up 0.9 more B WAR. That's based on unrealistic calculations of his defense, in my opinion, but that's it anyway. 5, unless the new CBA changed things, Bradley's $12 million option next year would only come with a $4 million luxury tax salary because his $8 million buyout was already priced into his 21 and 22 luxury tax salary. If he can maintain his current 2 to 3 B WAR pace, he would be a nice value next season. I'm worried that reducing his role this early in order to play Duran would increase the odds of the Red Sox declining his option and losing out on that bargain center fielder for 2023. Thanks for the great content, Josh. It's an interesting thought, Ian. I'm interested in what you think about that, about platooning Jarren Duran with Kike Hernandez, and then we'll go to our last email question.
I'll be honest, I don't really want to see Jarren Duran in center field under any circumstance for the Red Sox. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure they really want to play Bradley there that much either. Like, he's played 2 games there this year, so it's not like he has a ton of experience out there this year. And if you look, like, he obviously played there a lot of the time last year with Milwaukee, but I think that, like, Hernandez is going to figure it out. He's obviously, I don't think he's as bad as his stuff has shown this year. And I just think that that's not really, like, to me, I don't consider him like a pressing need. I think he's just been ridiculously unlucky. Like, his BABIP was 204 this year. Like, that's just it. Last year was, 278. The year before was 260. The year before was 266. His strikeout and walk numbers are pretty much in line with what they are in his career. Like, I just think he's been very unlucky, and I don't really think that, like, benching him to play Jarren Duran is the answer. I think that the upgrade spot is the Bradley spot on offense, but as the emailer astutely pointed out, they obviously are both left-handed, and Bradley has, been inconsistent, but he's hitting okay-ish, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I just think that at some point they will have to just call him up, but I don't see them. Like, I think maybe that's a way to get him to line up once or twice a week, but I think the majority of his stuff is going to be coming. Well, he'll probably play left field, but at the expense of the right fielder being, Bradley or whoever that platoon partner is.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing like Franchi Cordero get a lot of outfield time now when they want to play Dahlbeck at first. So, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to bring up these guys' Baseball Savant pages because that's usually a little bit better predictive wise.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Hernandez's right now. His expected batting average is actually only 217. So it's actually
his expected metrics are pretty bad.
Yeah, it's interesting. His max exit velocity is good, and his defense is he's outfield. He has the 100th percentile he's the best like jumps of anyone in the league. It's just the issue is he's just not hitting the ball hard this season, it seems. If you look at it, his hard hit rate is down. And last year was 43%. The year before was 43%. This year it's 26%. Like, yeah, I mean, he's in the 6th percentile on hard hit percentage. Like, yeah, and if you look at it, it's all coming against fastballs. Interestingly enough.
Meanwhile, Bradley, like, his average exit velo is in the 61st percentile. His hard hit percentage is in the 40th percentile. But both of their expected metrics are pretty weak, honestly, and they've both been great defensively. Outs above average. It's actually interesting to me to see Hernandez. His jumps are great, but outs above average likes Bradley better.
Yeah, Bradley's obviously got the much better arm too.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think they're going to try and find a way to make it work. I mean, this team is going to need Kike Hernandez to hit.
Well, and I think though that, like, if Duran were to come up, I do think like maybe he does get like 1 start or 2 in center field a week.
Sure,
but not in center field at the expense of Hernandez.
Yeah,
but I feel like that would be like normal, like, rest. That wouldn't, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not like out of the ordinary.
Yep. So, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I think it's too early for that personally, but it's also not a crazy idea. So, thanks for the emails, everyone who emailed, and thank you all for listening. I think that's about it, Ian. Let's let these people get on with the rest of their commute or their day or whatever. Thank you all for downloading, listening, streaming, whatever it is you do to listen to the podcast. We appreciate it. Make sure you're following us on Twitter. You can follow Ian at Ian Cundall. That's IANCUNDALL. And follow me at SP Chris Hatfield. Follow the site on Instagram and Twitter at Sox Prospects. As always, you can support us on patreon.com/Sox Prospects. And we always want to shout out our $5 and above level Patreon supporters. That list includes Kyle C., Tyler Woodrow, Jeff Trainer, David Nardone, Tim Harding, Bill Stanton, Deb Kendall, Evan Kirkwood, Hurricanes 1, Chris Fox, James O'Hara, Nathan Kenyon, Andrew Wallen, David B., Ben Burnett, Al Mendel, Kevin Catrides, Ben NRI, Paul Daniel, Lendl Martin, James P. McMahon, Stephen Gregory, James Bailey, Andreas Goldstrand, Corey Perrick, Forrest Perkins, Mark Herman, Aaron Meta, Jeff Harwood, Jimmy Mountain, Brian Cowan, Dusty G., Pavel, Jordan Shabbat, Jeffrey Scruggs, Nicholas Staropoli, Bob Introne, Mike Kawano, Chris Boulier, Curtis Waltman, Michael Stewart, Keith Fox, Caleb Farron, John Kane, Andrew K., Tim Ware, Michael Murphy, Jason Stoneburner, Jack Monahan, and Sam D. Thank you all for your support, as always. Anything else for the people before we let them go, Ian? Nope, you're good. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. We'll be back at you guys a little later next week. I've got something earlier in the week, but we'll be back at you. We're looking at recording maybe Wednesday night. So it'll be a little later next week, but we'll be back in your eardrums soon. Thanks for listening.